Welcome to the first part of a three-part interactive tour of a distribution substation. Directly in front of you is a 115 kV monopole. This monopole will serve as a kind of anchor point and a reference to identifying where exactly you are within the substation. To look around, simply move your mouse cursor over the video player, and by dragging the cursor from side to side or up and down, you can see in any direction. What you see is a typical distribution substation for Portland General Electric, and this particular one is located in Tualatin, Oregon. PGE has roughly 190 substations in service, and this one was built in early 2001. Notice that the substation equipment is mirrored on both sides. This redundancy helps ensure that if there is a fault on one side of the substation, the fault can be isolated, and the substation can still operate from the opposite side. Wherever you are at the moment, navigate back to that anchor point, highlighted in bright green for your reference. The first thing of note in this substation is the anchor point itself. It consists of 115 kV transmission lines on the monopole. The lines coming in from the left and right are attached to the same pole, but represent two separate circuits. We'll focus on the circuit on the right. Move your camera to the right and note how the 115 kV lines drop from the monopole into the substation. The lines connect to pedestals, and on top of each of these tall pedestals, the power coming in goes through what's called a jumper. The jumper acts as a bridge between the line and the substation. Right near the jumper, you will also notice what are called stress relief bells, and commonly called bushings. These stress relief bells are ceramic insulators that help with the pressure from the weight of the cable connecting to the pedestals. Notice there are three lines, one for each phase of our three-phase power. The three lines dip down from the top of the pedestals, each line passing through devices called V-brake center switches. The main function of the V-brake switches is to enable isolation of different pieces of equipment within the substation for the purposes of maintenance and protection. The next piece of equipment to the right is the potential transformer. The potential transformer monitors line voltage coming into the substation. If there were a fault on the transmission line outside the substation, commonly called the high side, this potential transformer would recognize the fault. To the right of the potential transformer is a circuit switcher or breaker. This breaker is here to isolate the substation in case of a fault or other mishap. In the case of a fault, SF6 gas would be shot into the top insulators, and much like blowing out a match, this SF6 gas fills the space between the two contacts, blowing out the connection, breaking the flow of electric current, and thus breaking the circuit. Swivel your camera back around and find the 115 kV anchor point again. If a tree were to fall on the right side circuit of that transmission tower, the potential transformer would notice that fault, which would trigger a relay housed in the back of the substation to open the breaker. The activation of the circuit breaker would isolate the right side circuit of the substation. Once isolated, this substation would still be operating from the left side circuit until either the fault clears or maintenance is completed. Now, if your camera is centered on the 115 kV anchor point, if you rotate your camera 180 degrees directly behind you, you can see where both halves of the substation connect in the center. The device located there is another V-brake center switch. This particular V-brake center switch acts when necessary to completely isolate both high sides of the substation. But when it's closed, it combines the 115 kV lines into a single circuit. And that concludes part one of our tour. All of the tags and markers have now returned to the screen, allowing you to look around at your own pace and review the structures. This video will end in 10 seconds, but if you want to take longer, just pause the video player. Even while paused, you can still look around. Once you're done, be sure to check out parts 2 and 3. Welcome.